Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. So today we're going to be just looking at a few technical things, and I'm going to try not to tell you everything that I've just written in the newsletter, which is out tomorrow completely free. I make tomorrow's newsletter about the macro setup and how I think the foundations are being set for an ultimate run, and I draw upon macro reasoning for that. So it's out tomorrow, Saturday, completely free. Link in the description or link my bio on most of my socials. So please go and check that out. I'd really appreciate it if you would read that, subscribe if you enjoy. I think I drop a lot of free value, and I think it's one of my favorite things to do. It gives me a chance each week to bring my thoughts together for you guys. And as I said, it's free. Like, I write it for people. Like, I don't charge anyone for anything that I do. So if you ever get charged by me, it's not me. It's probably a scammer. So yeah, but I do think that why not check out the information that I provide, whether you agree or not, that's up to you. But every now and then I do get something right, I guess. Anyway, back to what's going on right now. Looking at Bitcoin, this is liquidity charts. And remember, these charts that we use for liquidity, they indicate where people's stop losses and liquidation levels would be. So like if there's liquidity above us, that's where shorts get stopped out of positions essentially, and if there's liquidity below, it's where longs will get stopped out. 80% of the time, price moves into areas of deep liquidity because it's manipulated by market makers and high frequency trading bots. So that gives you a bit of a foundation as to what we're looking at here. We have liquidity building below us, meaning that people like price could get pushed down there to stop longs out of their positions. However, there is much more liquidity above us. So I had this on this like more zoomed out time frame just to show you. This is on the hourly. So up at like 100k, there's a lot of liquidity up there. And if we look a little bit higher, look if we still take that, it gets even more deep towards 108,000. But then if we go into the short term, there is more liquidity below us than above. If we just get rid of that, look, it looks like there's quite a lot of liquidity building below us. So is there a possibility that we see one more flush into the 75k region and just wick these lows out? Yes, that is possible. So keep that in mind. But also then take into consideration that it's much more liquidity above us, and that's been there for a while. So maybe we do come down, wick into the 70Ks before moving higher. Difficult one to predict for sure. The short term game is very difficult, especially when you're finding bottoms within ranges, which is what we're basically doing. Like, we've lost this range. Do we come down and get this test into this area one more time? Again, very difficult to make a call on that. We're seeing a lot of positivity in the markets in general, like with Ripple and the wider markets embracing crypto. I'm talking about like within the US, basically creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve, digital asset stockpile, these sorts of things. So there are positives as well as negatives right now. And Bitcoin, as much as this is just a choppy range, which there is obviously liquidity below us here, and this is like, people would say this is a parallel channel and this is a continuation pattern to the downside. It could be, but what we're actually creating here are higher lows and higher highs, potentially indicating that we've started to see a reversal here, as we've seen a low, a high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. But as I said, if we start to break this structure, could quite easily come down and revisit. Looking at XRP, obviously we had the great news that the Ripple SEC suit is coming to an end. And I did say, like, just don't be too focused on price action, because price action is not going to be potentially following what everyone thinks it's going to follow. Sorry, I must have moved my... when I look at my charts, my phone, sometimes I accidentally click some stuff and move it around. But what I have seen so far in this like bleed out period since the high is that we are potentially forming a parallel channel the other way for XRP. So potentially a continuation pattern here after a move, an impulsive move off the lows, off the chop. So we're basically just looking at what's going on. And if you read my newsletter, what I'm going to say to you is that... Actually, I'm not even going to tell you. Sorry, that was a bit weird laugh as well. I was just about to go into what I was going to say, what I've been saying in the newsletter, but I'm not going to talk about that. One thing I will talk to you guys about. So basically what I'm saying is, we're just chopping around. And to finish this chop, we need to start getting closes above like the 270 for XRP and $3 mark. Until then, unless we start getting closes below like 199, this is daily closes, so I'll take us on to daily. Unless we start to get closes below 199, there's literally nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about at all. We're just chopping in a range. If you want to accumulate more, it's not an awful place to do it. Some alts are more beaten up than XRP, and I think that all alts are probably going to have at least a bounce, if not go into retracement levels and an expansionary period at some point soon. And we'll talk about Bitcoin dominance soon. We've seen the 3-day bullish cross on XRP. We've seen the 3-day bullish cross on Bitcoin. Look at Bitcoin, but now it's obviously coming back below. But we still got 1 day and 15 hours for this to change back. If this goes green, like that'll be a clear bullish cross on the 3-day RSI for Bitcoin. It'll be a clear bullish cross on the 3-day RSI for XRP. So who knows what's going to happen in the next like day or so. As I said, we're trying to predict these periods is very difficult. Bitcoin's still bouncing with its head on the bottom of the previous range, which has acted as previous levels of indecision. Look, as we can see, wicks to the upside, wicks to the down, and not really getting closes one way or another above 87k or below like the 85k region. So it's clearly been an area of like interest for the markets, and that's what we're basically watching here. If we get that close back inside the range, I expect a continuation to at least 96k, if not towards the top of the range up here at 108k, which would coincide with that liquidity that we talked about. If we keep closing outside the range, we either chop and keep trying to work on this or continue down to the liquidity below us. So it's up in the air. I've said this for a while. Like while we're trading in a range, I've always said to you guys when we trade within a range, which we're doing now, respect the range, because that's how ranges work. Our CRV buy still looking pretty good. We bought CRV at this blue line, and we actually bought again at this white line here. That was all the capital I had at the time. One thing I did notice is that both the short-term trend on the 3-day and the medium-term trend have been broken for CRV to the upside, which will coincide with what Cred's been talking about recently, that potentially ETH is looking a bit spicy here. It's too early to tell, he says, but similarly with the 3-day Bitcoin XRP chart that we've talked about, if we get some positive price action, if we can recover the last day or so in price action, then this will start to look pretty positive to the upside for ETH as well. So we're going to look now at the Bitcoin dominance chart. Where is it? Give me 1 second. Yeah, here we go. The Bitcoin dominance chart, which looks to me like it's thinking about rolling over. The RSI on the daily is just holding on above the moving average and is making slightly lower highs, while price is making slightly higher highs, which is bearish divergence. Similarly with the stochastic RSI making significantly lower highs, whilst price makes slightly higher highs. It's an indecision period, but at some point I think we will see a pull down on Bitcoin dominance to this 39% level, and probably lower, as you guys know. That's my thesis. But we're at a key resistance level here, and it's whether we get this spike towards the 68% level that we've talked about before, but 68 to 74%, I think it is, yeah, level that has previously triggered the start of an alt season, or we start to see a bleed out from here at retracement levels against the previous swing highs here for Bitcoin dominance. Let's have a look at where these retracement levels come in. We're right in the retracement level period here. Look, 702, we have wicked into that. Are we going to see a continuation up there before bleeding out, or is that enough? Time will tell, time will tell. And if you read the newsletter, you're going to see what I'm discussing and why I think the macro is going to turn up at some point soon, and what we actually should be looking at in the wider space. But until we start to get those moves, we are just trying to guess at the bottom, which is why I've said, and if you tuned into my live stream yesterday with BitGet, I've said that I think this is one of the best risk to rewards periods historically to buy crypto, because of the time as well as the return. I think the return's probably between 2 and 5x, depending on whatever you buy in the large cap sector, and higher potentially if you hit the right alts, which are smaller caps, but that obviously comes with it a lot more risk. But the time frame is probably 3 to 12 months in the time period that you're going to get that upside in. So that's why I think risk to reward is pretty good right now. Looking at XRP dominance, on the 3-day, we had our closest to our highest daily close since back here in November 2020. We literally just touched into it again. The structure's the same across XRP dominance, XRP Bitcoin as well, like obviously because against Bitcoin is like one of the things that you're going to take some of the dominance off. XRP ETH is slightly different. We are bearish divergence on the 3-day, but I don't know if this is a sign of strength or weakness. Like this obviously shows that momentum is slowing slightly, but price is still pushing to the upside. This is one of those things where if we do have the bearish divergence play out, we could retrace back down to these highs here and just chop around for a little, allowing maybe ETH to go for a run, which in my opinion would be better for XRP in the long term. Or we could start to see, like a bit of a spurt out of this area that I've been talking about for a while. When we break this resistance, I think we continue to at least this 1.7 level. Maybe we get a push there and then we chop down, let ETH take the show for a bit. Doesn't mean XRP bleeds out in price, but it just means ETH takes a bit more dominance potentially, and then we continue. But XRP against Bitcoin, in my opinion, is showing strength. This pattern here historically breaks to the upside in crypto, and XRP dominance is in the sign of strength phase after a Wyckoff accumulation, in my opinion, all showing that maybe on this next leg up for Bitcoin, alts potentially outperform, or large caps, ETH looking kind of strong, and XRP, I'm showing you here, in my opinion, looks pretty strong against Bitcoin as well. So that's basically where I stand, guys. Haven't got too much more to tell you than that. If I was accumulating any more, I bought some Flare the other day as well. I think Flare's in a decent accumulation range in this grey box here. Minimum target up to this like 4 to 5 cent range. My first real take profit target is this range here between 15 cent and 19 cent. And I do think there's an outside chance we see something like 100x from Flare this cycle. People will call me crazy for that. Like I don't really care. This is my thought process. I think there's an outside chance we see 100x for something like Flare this cycle. I think other large caps that haven't done too much are worth accumulating. Probably something like Link. I quite like Link. We talked about this a while ago. I've published this chart a few times. I actually think Pepe looks pretty good where we are here. I think that Pepe's been beaten up. Meme's been beaten up pretty heavily, and if ETH does perform, beta plays on ETH will probably do pretty well. That's why CRV is something I've been purchasing, being an ETH DeFi play, and probably Pepe being one of the main ETH memes will do pretty well from here, potentially, like if I'm right. I think Litecoin's a decent play. AVAX and Algorand also probably not bad buys in these areas as well. And I also think Sui might be a decent shout as well, and Cardano. So they're the ones that I'd probably be looking at, showing either signs of strength or just things that I've been watching for a little while, waiting to see if we can start to get this move. It'd be lovely to see Bitcoin go higher than I expect, and because I do think the rotation, as I've said in this video, will happen. Just when that happens, that's the hard question that I can't answer for you guys. But you can see by the newsletter that I'm releasing tomorrow and the TA that we've just done here that inevitably we move up. But whether we move down in the short term, I don't know. If we do, that's when you buy. Like that's historically where we get these amazing opportunities, purchasing on lows before expansion. And I think expansion is coming. Someone said in my video yesterday, you spent 13 minutes telling us you're going to go up or down. Because in the short term, anything can happen. But in the medium to long term, I think we go up. I don't know how I can make that any more clear. That's all I literally say across all my channels. So I'm not telling you whether we go up or down. What I'm saying is, in the short term, if we do come down and the macro, which I've explained in the newsletter, still has a little bit longer to work itself out, then buy. And because if you agree with what I think, because I think we're going up, that isn't me saying I think we're going to go up or down. It's me saying I think we're going to go up, but it might be 3 months or 2 weeks or 6 months. But I think this year, in 2025, we're going to be substantially higher than where we are now. I told you at the video, to start the video, 2 to 5x on most large caps. That's my opinion. And that is as clear as I can make it, to be honest. Someone literally posted, like, he's just told me in 13 minutes, we're going to go, you don't know if we're going to go up or down, dislike and unsubscribe. If that makes you want to unsubscribe, like, that's up to you. Like, I'm going to come here and tell you what I think. The short term, I'm unsure on. I think if we get a catalyst or something, things could easily break to the upside. Until then, we have to respect the range, and if we're respecting the range and we could chop around a bit longer, it's a good time to DCA, because ultimately after this range, I think the next move is upside. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please hit that subscribe button, press the like button as well, helps out the YouTube algorithm. Drop a comment below. If you think I'm right, like, you don't have to think I'm right, it's fine. And if you read the newsletter, please let me know in the comments as well. I'd really appreciate that. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say.